Diarmuid Lyng is with us as well on the line. Diarmuid, how are things?
Yeah, very good. As long as I don't get the same interrogation about what I'm doing in my life. It's Shane got there. I'll be fine, Owen. How are you, Anthony?
Good, Diarmuid, yourself?
Yeah, very good, very good.
It is a kind of a rubber stamping over the idea of taking a bit of time away from the game. Like, I mean, the clear head that you must come back with when you apply yourself to hurling once again. And clearly, if you can get yourself into such a position, maybe not everybody will get the opportunity to go to Harvard, but something is similarly successful. The cross-pollination and what you can learn from other brilliant minds will certainly help you as a person.
Yeah, it's interesting just listening to Shane as well. Like, because I've been thinking about this for a while. That the idea of, do you know, when you ask players from the outside now, there's a lot of critique about how much is demanded of players and how much pressure is on them and everything else. But when you ask inter-county players the country over, they say they're delighted to be doing what they're doing. And I wonder often how much is that just when you're in the bubble. Of course you're delighted to be doing what you're doing because you don't know anything else. And I think that's one of the things, and listening to Shane, and I know Tony Griffin wrote about the same thing, and I experienced the same thing myself. It's like when you just get outside the bubble a little bit, you see what it is, and it allows you to relax an awful lot more. And I remember coming back my first year, coming back in 2012, the joy of the game had really come back, and it hadn't been there for a long time. And it just sounds like it's the same there for Shane, which is great, you know.
It's an amazing thing, Diarmuid. I spent a lot of my time, obviously, working in Dublin. So, after a game, you can even hear what he was saying there. You don't have that same kind of feeling of people questioning you. You don't go walk down the town and meet people and they're constantly asking you about, the game that happened, be it for the good or for the bad. So it is, just on your point, it's great to have that pressure taken off you at times, and you can dip into it and you can dip out of it. And actually, when you remove yourself sometimes from the pressure and the bubble and the intensity of living, sleeping, dreaming about football or hurling, and it consuming you, it can actually restrict your game an awful lot. Like, it really can. It can make you tighten up big time, because you're analysing and you're second guessing everything that's happening. Am I training well? Are they, is the manager looking at me well? Why is he picking me here? And actually, sometimes when you do take a break or remove yourself from it, you can actually go back and just play the game for the game.
I think one of the things that happens definitely is you meet people, like, I think back about being in Wexford, and Wexford's a relatively small place, and hurling mad, obviously, no different to meet. And I think that you meet a lot of people's reflection of you. They don't actually often meet the person, they meet the reflection. They listen to, they're like, what you get the game Sunday, what's going to happen is this, is that, and they're meeting what they would interpret you to be, as opposed to actually, how you doing, what's going on with you. And I think then when you start to see yourself as just a response to that question, and just in hurling terms, then you would draw on all of your experience in life on the hurling field. And the wider I think that those experiences are, the more you have to draw on, the more of an open mind you have to draw on in moments that are challenging. So I think it makes perfect sense for Shane to be experiencing that. Funny for him to be avoiding telling people about it, and then for that little bit of shame afterwards. I mean, that's even building that up. Like, it's like, how lightly can we wear the fact that we play inter-county hurling, or that we have this game that we have? How lightly do we wear it? Obviously, we wear it a little bit heavier than we should.
Yeah, it's very true. I think it comes back to this idea when you often ask inter-county players, what do you define yourself as? Are you a hurler, are you a footballer, or are you an actual human being who actually has other interests and does other things in their lives? We should talk about the Leinster final, Diarmuid, because
we should.
It's an important one. It's a big one. So if Kilkenny lose, this is going to be the first time that Brian Cody will go 3 years in a row without winning Leinster. But at the same time, if Davy Fitz gets the job done on Sunday, he'll have completed the full house of medals. There's a lot on the line, the full house of important medals. Probably he hasn't got an Ulster hurling title, I don't think.
Yeah, it's nice that you're starting the question off with if Brian Cody loses or if Kilkenny lose. It's generally not the way. And I mean, for Davy on that side of it, I mean, that's more of a personal thing, so we're not so interested in that at the moment. It'll be hats off to Davy. I think an extension, definitely, if this is in the third year and we come to a Leinster final, and it's a real, it was the same with the last game against Kilkenny. In fairness, it was like, well, where are Wexford at in terms of their development, and how long can they sustain the type of management style that Davy has? And this is all from the outside looking in, people saying that you get a year and a half, you get 2 years with Davy, and then you don't get any more. But obviously Davy's improving all the time as a manager as well, and he's learning his own lessons along the way. So it seems like Wexford are going I mean, I'm tempering it a little bit with where Kilkenny are at the same time, but they've reached the Leinster final, so there's obviously plenty there in terms of what they bring. And I've said this, I probably said it every night that I worked off the ball for a full year. It's like what Kilkenny are going to bring. They always bring a certain amount, and if you bring what that is, that spirit that they bring to every single moment of every single game, it's really hard to break it down. So Wexford, their system causes Kilkenny problems because Wexford they've mastered it so well. But I think on top of that, if Wexford don't bring that honesty that Kilkenny will almost certainly bring and always do, I think it won't really matter too much about systems or where Davies trophy cabinet is like, because you have to really meet that above anything else. And I felt the last day in Wexford Park, allied by the fact that it was in Wexford Park, we really did meet that and really did stand up. So yeah, it's going to be different. It's going to be different in Croke Park. Definitely, this is more Kilkenny's home than anything else.
Diarmuid, on the Wexford system, just can you elaborate a bit more on that? Like, why do Kilkenny find it so difficult to break it down? And then taking into fact of the TJ Reid factor from the last game, and what Kilkenny might do around obviously trying to counteract that. Will they use him as a foil a bit more, bring him out the field, kind of try to drag people left and right, and actually look to bring other fellas into it? What do you expect?
Yeah, well, I would expect TJ not to be held scoreless the next day for sure, and to bring him out more. I'd say to give him a little bit more of a free roll further out the field, where Matt Hanlon, obviously beside Kevin Foley, has the freedom as a centre back. When you're in a centre back, you want to be sitting back a little bit at least, but you don't have to do that if you've got somebody sitting in behind you. So to break that down, the reason I think that they struggle with it is because Wexford train with this system all the time. When the pressure comes on in games, one of the significant things that happens is you tend to clear loosely, clear under pressure, and Wexford have developed their far and away from where they were 3 years ago when Liam Ryan, Damien Rex, Simon Donoghue, Sean Murphy come out with the ball. They know that Kevin Foley is there, sometimes a little bit too loose, but they're very, very comfortable in that. Kilkenny on the other side, I think, well, obviously you've got one forward down, so you've got an extra player, and playing against a confident team in possession, that's always going to cause problems. So I think that Kilkenny, I know they've changed their tactics hugely or changed how to play hugely, but they still do trade on the traditional merits of the game, and there will be a time of there's plenty of times where they're like, look, I need to get the ball up to Colin Fennelly as quickly as I can. I don't need to work it up through the lines all the time. And I think sometimes that fed, particularly in the last game a couple of weeks ago, that fed into Wexford's hands, and they were able to work the ball back out in possession. Not the more attractive game, but definitely very effective when you're able to use it, when you're confident enough to use it, and that's what Wexford have at the moment.
Yeah, when you say at the start there that we know what Kilkenny are going to bring, there was a couple of good stats from Eamon Donoghue in the Irish Times yesterday. He says that the current Kilkenny squad still contains 10 players with All-Star awards and 5 who've won multiple awards, but not once since the new format began in Leinster have all 10 All-Stars started a championship match for Kilkenny, and only once in those 11 matches have all 10 been on the pitch at the same time. So is there still a little bit of a reliance in terms of reaching the peak, in terms of being All-Ireland contenders, on the tried and the trusted and the All-Star winners that are getting towards the age of 30 and beyond now at this point, Diarmuid?
I think they're the standard. I wouldn't see there being any issue with that for Kilkenny, even if that is the case. I mean, who are you looking at? Joey Holden and Paul Murphy. Hughie Lawler's come in, and he gets to learn from between the two of those fellas. Padraig Walsh again, like outstanding last day, and leader in every sense of the word. Killian Buckley's going to be a couple more weeks down the road, and he's probably going to get 70 minutes, and that's going to add a huge amount with Conor Fogarty in midfield. Adrian Mullen won 3 the last day, so he's obviously learning his trade and has done under the guise of Henry Shefflin, TJ, Walter Walsh. I mean, Colin Fennelly, to get all those guys on the field, you would at the one time. I mean, it seems to be that's what we'll be looking at on Sunday. But I still don't feel, even having said that, I still don't feel that they were all-stars at a time when there was other huge all-stars as well. Like they were dominating, and you're always going to win a certain amount of all-stars when you're dominating. But there still is. They had 2 or 3 always who were like head and shoulders above the rest, who brought everybody else on. And I think even though TJ has that, Richie Hogan obviously isn't featuring so much. Overall, it's just not as strong. Kilkenny is just not as strong overall. So I don't know. Individually, all of those players were all very much worthy of their All-Stars, worthy of their All-Irelands, everything else. But as a cohesive unit, there's a couple of players there who I just don't think supplement probably TJ enough. Literally, really only TJ at this stage that I feel. Padraig Walsh is playing fully and utterly to form and is dominating games, but it's really only TJ who's standing out head and shoulders in a way that probably 4 or 5 Kilkenny fellas were 5 years ago.
You mentioned Richie Hogan there on the hurling show yesterday, which is live every Thursday afternoon on offtheball.com. They discussed Richie Hogan's situation.
What does it say to Richie Hogan now? Because he 5 years ago was hurler of the year, or was it even 4 years ago? 2014 or 15? Yeah. He was key man. Everything revolved around him, you know, whether he played full forward, centre forward, wherever. The game plan seemed to revolve about get the ball to Richie Hogan and he's going to do damage. He was an unused sub the last day as well.
Like there was Richie, the day against Limerick last year was, I honestly think it was like the 5th or 6th game he had played. It was played 5 or 6 games or come on and hadn't scored.
Yeah.
Like, and even the day against Galway,
he had a goal then against Galway.
Yeah, he got 1-3 or 1-4, I think. He has had a lot of shots in games, and even against Galway he had shots, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem to be flowing for him. Cody obviously doesn't think he's shown the form to be in there. If he's on form, he plays, he contributes at some stage, but if he's kind of hit and miss, and it seems to be, it's very deflating when he hits those couple of wides in games, which he has done. Take the Limerick game out too, you know. So I think Cody's, if he's playing and he's showing the form in training, he's going to play him. But if he's not going to put him in there.
He mustn't be right.
Too. He mustn't be. No, he's had ongoing back issues for 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, it's pretty much a fairly clear-cut thing, isn't it, Diarmuid, that if he's in form, you play him. If he's not, you don't. It's not like that he's looking at the medals of Brian Cody and saying, well, this guy could come up with the big stuff. I mean, you have to be in form to be able to show that.
Yeah, there's 3 different dynamics that I wonder about with this. There's the 2 that you've just referenced. The fact that with the medals, I don't think that comes into it for Brian Cody. It's generally if he's playing, and that's it. I do have, and I'm a little bit slow to say it, but I do have a sneaking suspicion when you think back to Charlie Carter, when you think back to DJ Carey, when you think back to some of the bigger players early on, and there's a few kind of fringe players who came along as well who I don't think towed the line in a way that Cody would have expected. I don't think Richie Hogan doesn't toe the line. I think he's the ultimate and consummate professional. I think he's been a fantastic. I'm not going to even begin to try and measure what he's given to the game. Like, you know, he's been phenomenal. But I've always gotten the sense from his interviews and things after All-Ireland finals and after games that Richie, he kind of walks his own walk, you know. He definitely doesn't bow down to Brian Cody. And there was a barb or 2 over the years back and forth between them. And I think that when things aren't maybe going so well, and there could be an opportunity to bring him back in, or there could be an opportunity to maybe play with him a little bit more. I don't know sometimes if that relationship isn't as strong as it could be, how much that impacts whether he even gets a look in or not. I don't know, would that be unprofessional of Brian Cody to even suggest that? I don't know, are these things just working away in the subconscious? But I feel that has been a little bit of an aspect of the relationship. I don't know what it's like, so I'm just wondering about it. I'd imagine it's the fact that he's not playing well, so he's just not on the team, you know. Yeah, it certainly seems to be as simple as that. Like when you talk about the burden coming off TJ Reid, Adrian Mullen has been the name on everybody's lips so far this summer, Diarmuid. He's an incredible talented team. He's somebody who all of a sudden, that Kilkenny used to be able to do this, where a player used to come through the conveyor belt and they only needed 1 or 2 of them every year, that if people were worried about the talent drying up in Kilkenny, this guy is the very antithesis of it. He seems to be, yeah. Looking at him with the Shamrocks this year as well, it was the same thing. He just plays with a freedom, and there's a cheekiness, a bowelness to him that you kind of like in his play as well. You can see there's a bit of an edge to him. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of them, 3 or 4 at the minute, and they kind of each have that hallmark. But I thought he was very quiet, that he was going to be under pressure actually against Wexford after the first half. Looking at it, I didn't think he was going so well, because I've been looking out for him this year to see how he was going to get on. But he certainly, the way he took the goal, the way his manner changed, and the confidence that he developed after that, that's sometimes just all a young player like that needs. Especially in a team where, they're not coming in, Owen, the way you were talking about, where when you came in before, you came in as one or two amongst 13 absolute legends, whereas now when you come in, he has to get his shoulder to the wheel as quickly as possible, and he seems to be doing that.
He certainly does. Just to finish up on a couple of Wexford bits, there's been some interesting stuff said this week. Richie Power said that, I think Wexford would struggle if they went back to 15 on 15. Now, he did say they're so used to the system and are brilliant at playing it, but do you think if this was a straight 15 on 15 matchup, it would be a fairly non-event, that Kilkenny would have a huge favouritism over Wexford?
I'd love to see it. I don't know. I'd love to see it. I think that they've played now. I mean, Shane Rick is probably going to come in for Damien. I think that they're playing now with a confidence in possession that, okay, if you took Kevin Foley out, maybe that confidence wouldn't be there. But I think they're able to take their men on now in a way that they weren't before. And I would love to see him going back to 15 on 15. I don't want them to do it. I'd love to see what would happen if they did it. I think like Liam D. O'Keefe in midfield, Liam I think had a little bit of a quieter game the last day, in fairness, but Diarmuid O'Keefe in midfield is probably the top midfielder in the country at the moment for me. And again, he's allied by the fact that Kevin Foley is bringing a lot of ball out. And Matt O'Hanlon, I thought, did a superb job on TJ Reid, just man to man. But I suppose all of that is, each time I say it, is tempered with the fact that Kevin Foley is sitting around there and helping those matters. So it'll be an interesting one. Up front, they will be well able for it. Jack O'Connor, Lee Chin, Rory O'Connor in the half-forward line. I mean, they'd be able for any half-back line in the country. Inside, then, that's where it would strengthen. That's where Wexford would strengthen, because you'd have three inside instead of two. Maybe we're one top-class forward short for that 15 on 15, and maybe this actually serves us from that regard as well. But yeah, it'd be an interesting one.
Well, I dare say Derek McGrath wouldn't feel the same way. In his column this morning, he's sticking up for Davies' system. He's saying that Wexford scoring average since Davies' arrival has steadily risen to 24.8 per game. He's talking about how they can potentially approach the game this weekend, and he talks about Waterford playing in the 2010 All-Ireland semi-final, and how Derek McGrath might actually, or how Derek McGrath talks about how Davy might utilise this. And he says, Chin to 11 potentially with licence to roam, taking Pádraig Walsh away from a sitting area. Rory O'Connor and Liam O providing the dogs of war cover at 10 and 12 for a zonal backline as Liam Ryan takes his chances, but Colin Fennelly and Matthew O'Hanlon and Paddy Foley bringing savage concentration to marking roles on TJ Reid and Walter Walsh. That is a very in-depth thing by Derek McGrath I appreciate, Diarmuid, but is there truth in what he's saying there? Is there an Achilles heel there in Kilkenny somewhere?
I think there is. I think there definitely is. I don't think they've. I just don't think they've. I don't think they've synced up. I mean, I can't. I don't read the game at the same depth as Derek does in that regard. Like, I don't think. I just don't see the standard that Kilkenny require to dominate Wexford. I think Wexford actually have a better hurlers at the moment. I don't think we have necessarily ironed out all of the things that we need to in terms of the spirit and the attitude that Brian Cody always talks about. I think that because they've demanded that totally over the years, they've got that further down. But yeah, my little son wants to have his way on the radio here.
We leave you to it, Diarmuid. Give us a one-word prediction on Sunday.
Yeah, Jesus, Wexford in my heart, but with the wide open fields of Croke Park, I'm a bit worried, but Wexford in my heart for sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. Go on. I have to say Wexford, but Jesus, I think we're going to struggle as well, because Kilkenny do love Croke Park and it brings the best out of them. But I'm delighted we're up there. I'm delighted we're with Kilkenny again in Leinster final. I'm delighted that we've come to life in this way again. It's an important thing for Wexford people. So I just can't wait for the game.
Listen, Diarmuid, thanks a million for taking the call this morning. Appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your morning there.
Yeah, thanks, lads.